And what in heaven's name brought you to Casablanca?
My health. I came to Casablanca for the waters.
The waters? What waters? We're in the desert.
I was misinformed.
He taught me, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
You're tearing me apart!
What?
You say one thing, he says another, and everybody changes back again!
If you did 20% of the work and got 80% of the results, wouldn't you do it? Well, Stephanie Miller wrote the book on it. How to Save the Planet the 80-20 Way. Let's hear some tips on how to save the planet right now on The Al Travis Show.
I believe Stephanie Miller and I have been doing this so long, she now doesn't even fake it when she's on the program. Stephanie, thanks for being here. The look you gave me, and for folks, as we're doing this, Stephanie has more than once brought up the plastic bottle of my Mountain Dew that I use. And I have done everything I can for as long as I can to hide it when she's on the show. I generally put it on the other side where the camera can't catch it. And just before we went on, I reflectively grabbed the cup and I took a drink. And when I looked at your face, you won't know that you did this. When I looked at your face, it was the exact same look my mother gave me when I brought my first girlfriend home, like at 16, and she knew the girl and her parents. It's like, oh God, Al. It was that look. You had that exact same, I'm so disappointed. You could do so much better look. It was amazing. Did you know you made the look? It was like, oh, Al.
I didn't know I had a look like that.
Oh, I can't imagine what your husband goes through. It's like, wow, cut me like a knife.
Husband, son. Yeah, I'm sure they can talk to you about my various looks. But no, that was I'm not going to say anything, Al.
Because of my disdain for your choices. You could tell it was so, and I instantly dropped that thing back down like, well, no, it's too late. She already saw it. It's still sitting over there. We've been here too long. Zero Waste Living the 80-20 Way. You've come into my life again as, and I don't know how much more, well, I'm having a funeral on Sunday, so probably stop talking about it then. Just talk about life with Katie. Planning a funeral has so many ways you can do this right or wrong and be better for the planet or not. No. It is not in your book. Look, you didn't write about it in the book. Do you have thoughts on all the way down to the buying the food and what are you going to do at the funeral, the next day? All that stuff comes down. I'm thinking, what would Stephanie Miller do? Do you have thoughts on this?
Sure, I do. Sure, I do.
Okay.
It's whether you're doing a graduation or July 4th or a funeral, anytime you're gathering people together, you're going to have the same kind of go-to solutions that you've always had, whatever those are. And if you're a person who wants to be done with the party when everybody leaves and you don't want to do the cleanup, you're going to look to the disposable world for your cutlery, your dishes, your linen. You're not going to have linens. You're going to have plastic tablecloths. So I just think for all of those occasions, whether it's funerals, graduations, July 4th, it's always just more elegant, nicer to have the reusables. And it really just doesn't take that much more effort to clean up afterwards. I know it's really nice to be able to just throw all that plastic into
be done an hour later
and big garbage bags. But I just this morning read a statistic. Can I just share this with you?
No. Okay. See, I'm just kidding.
Thank you.
You have the smile on the face. You know me.
Every day, the equivalent of 2,000 garbage trucks full of plastic are dumped into waterways, oceans, rivers, lakes.
Wow.
That's just crazy. I've seen other statistics just around general waste. One garbage truck a minute in the ocean kind of thing. But anyway, it's just astounding. And then when you have an event, whatever the event is, and you do your 5 garbage bags of trash, you can start to connect the dots a little bit to those 2,000 garbage.
No, you're in a big city. So going back to the funeral thing, and I'm in a very small town. And this church is one of the smallest churches in our small town. I'm anxious to see how this works because I believe because the gals, the ladies of the church, will go down in the basement. It's down there. So this would not be a first time. They do this a lot. I'm almost believing it's some of that cheap hardware plates we'll use and the weird spoons. I don't think there'll be as much of that. Napkins maybe, and I don't know what they're going to do with the glassware. But I presume this is, the 100th funeral in this church, and so I think it's going to be less of a problem than your typical 100 people get together deal.
Yeah, probably. But,
it's the food waste.
It's a funeral. You have enough to worry about with a funeral. It's so much.
Well, yeah, but if it's going to save the planet by doing it right. I mean, if let's just start doing, here's my point, and you'd agree with me, you probably missed. Back in the day, the Vikings, little funeral pyre, burn some wood, and the guy's gone, everybody's a little song and dance. I watched Star Wars. They do it again in Star Wars. In 500 years, we're going to do that again. That's how they got rid of, Darth Vader. So in the meantime, we're doing all this other stuff, which seems a little strange to me. And that's why I think we can get to this sooner than later. Things that I thought about. So now, how many will show up? Shot in the dark, right? I guess these family members, we had that up. He lived in this town. How many will come down? And so now we got to take a stab in the dark. So it was the food waste that got me first when we were talking about it. Ooh, wow. So we're going to go with 100. Okay, so we need to make food for 100. What if 50 show? Yeah. And I'm thinking, what are we going to do with that food? The food waste, you and the food waste people, you don't want all that because that to me was a hard part. The other thing, like the brochures, the program, whatever. Yeah. Well, let's make 100 of those. Yeah. Yeah, and if 50 people show up, I just, it's stuff like that you were always on my mind. You were always on my mind.
So, well, I'm honored, but it's your father's funeral, and you shouldn't have to worry about these things. If I were you, I would ask someone who's not a family member to take charge of some things for you. For example,
go ahead.
You can collect the unused programs and have someone recycle them.
Yeah.
If you have a compost option, you may not. You could ask someone to set some system up, a bin for compostable food scraps. You could ask someone to get in touch with the church and see whether they are going to use reusables or not. Yeah. You shouldn't have to do that. You've got enough on your mind. I will say, my sister probably was close to killing me for this, but when you do a memorial service, which is what we did for my mother 3 years ago, you've got a little more lead time. And I was thinking about this when you talked about, you don't know if it's 100 or 50 and how many will show up.
You can ask.
When you do a celebration of life, a memorial, it's more like a party graduation where you ask for RSVPs so because you're right. I didn't even think about that. You're completely in the dark.
I have no clue who's going to make it. Yeah. Let me ask you this, though. In the world of saving the planet, which you are a big part of, is the cremation a more environmentally friendly version than the standard, the casket in the ground funeral? And I don't want you to give it up because I'll throw out this. People think, well, that's crazy how it's got to be the cremation. Cremation has its own issues in that body needs to be driven to the crematorium, wherever it's at, and the power to do that up and then send it on back. It isn't as clean as you think, but on the other hand, well, we'll talk about it. Can we do that on the other side?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Stephanie Miller, the 80-20 Way on the Al Travis Show.
If it's your turn to host a game, Grandpa's Barbecue suggests you try something different. Put out the perfect barbecue flavor of Grandpa's Barbecue. Add it to your ribs, dip the meatballs, or drench your wings in the original flavor of Grandpa's Barbecue. It isn't too hot or spicy, fruity or smoky or whatever. Grandpa's Barbecue. Available in select stores and online at grandpasbarbecueshop.com.
Dust from gravel roads and driveways does more than make your car dirty inside and out. It gets down into your lungs, and it's bad for your health. Now there's an environmentally friendly solution for your dust problems. It's called DustLock. DustLock can control all your summer dust problems with just one application. Protect your vehicle and your lungs. Learn more at dustlock.com.
don't need to ask him his opinion more than once. Al Travis on The Al Travis Show.
And we've got our Stephanie Miller in the 80-20 way. We left with, in the grand scheme of things, is the cremation the preferred method of the people that want to sell the planet compared to the standard, put them in a, and in Minnesota, I don't know if this is everywhere, you have to actually put a vault in the ground, a cement box to put the, because they don't want the ground to all fade in. So which is more the choice of the save the planet type?
Yeah. So I know you think I'm an expert on all things sustainable. But
well, that's because I have you on the. That's because I have you on the show as the expert in all things sustainable.
There's a reason there's nothing in my book about funeral options. This is not something I've explored at length. I am going to answer your question because I had an instinct about it and I double checked it during the break. But there's a new. I don't want to offend anyone, but there's a new system of burial that is considered more sustainable than either traditional burial or cremation.
The funeral pyre, we're going back.
Well, it's close, but not exactly. It's okay. Are you ready?
I am.
It's human composting.
Oh no! That's never. I'm sorry, it's never catch. It might be. What, you're gonna throw them in, then you can throw some banana peels in there and get the right. No.
This is where I'm a little out of my depth. No pun intended. But no, it's not about adding banana peels, but it is about accelerating, all organic matter disintegrates, decomposes, including, if you bury
this is not catching on in America. This is not catching on in America.
It is. Not. There are some places where it's happening. But anyway, I have not explored this extensively. It's essentially an acceleration of the human decomposition process.
But even if you accelerate it, how long? I want this to be done Sunday. When we're done Sunday, I want to be done Sunday. I do not want to say, in 3 weeks we can come back and he'll be. I don't want. Yeah. No.
So the answer to your question is cremation is considered a bit more environmentally friendly, quite a bit more than traditional burial. You've got the problem of the land use, and that's a really big problem with traditional burial, right? You're taking up a lot of land for bodies as they're decomposing.
You say that. Can I bring this up? And I don't know why we don't do this. They bury you in a cemetery horizontally. I read this thing. If we just tipped it up vertically, we got 6 times as many people. I'm like, well, that makes some sense. Do I care if I'm standing up or I'm laying down?
Let me get this right. You have an issue with human composting, but you don't have an issue with verticality of the decomposing body.
Exactly. I don't have. You pop them up 6 times as many. Put the family plot. The whole family could fit. I don't care. I'm saving the land. Okay.
Yeah. So so that's an interesting. I haven't read about that, Al, but I always learn something new on your show. So there's the land use issue with traditional burial, and then there's also all the chemicals, the embalming fluids that are used.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yes. There are also issues with cremation. It does, as you said before the break, there's energy involved in
doing that. Yeah. The other thing I was going to ask you about, because I think about it, the obituary. Did you bring this up, or was that on the break?
Yes.
Writing the obituary itself, things that you shouldn't do. Okay, so it's the who passed before the man, and you got to go through the family lineage and the thing. And I'm like, I don't remember that guy. I'm 60. I don't think I've seen it. And then, who's still around? And then all that, by the time anybody reads all that, I think you're done. And then the family. Yeah. Let's get rid of those. Can we do this person died on this date, and if you knew him well enough, you knew his brothers who passed. Do we got to do that? What are we doing that for?
Apparently we don't, and this is why I know this, because very recently my sister and I wrote the joint obituary for my uncle and aunt. They didn't have kids.
Okay.
And it took a while because we were trying to find when did they graduate from so-and-so. But when I Googled the obituaries in their local paper, they were literally 2 to 3 lines long, probably 1-2 sentences long.
Yes,
And it was very basic. And it was hard to find one that was anywhere as long as what we wrote, which was like 3 paragraphs or something.
That's got to be from where we come from. What do you do out here? Out down here, the fine folks at the funeral home sent me 3-4 copies of ones, and they're a page. They're a page and a half if you want to, get into it. And I'm like,
in Blue Earth?
Yeah, we're all about talking about the dead people. We got to come up with everything. Every human that died ahead of them, the dog, Spike's name, and whatever. I mean, we got to cover it. Is that not how you do in Washington? Well, I suppose it's more expensive
this
in Washington.
was not in D.C.
Well, that's what I'm saying. For where you're at, Colorado's all about just give me the down and dirty, right? Who died, what their birth date was, where's the funeral. What do you guys do in D.C.? Is that D.C. papers? That's huge. You must have just massive numbers of deaths in the paper. Listings.
I would imagine. I don't look at the obituaries in DC. I'm sure when there's a famous person who dies, they do a whole article in the Washington Post. But
that's an age thing, though. As you get older, you'll read more obituaries. I'm just telling you. You want to know if you see anybody you know. Small towns is what it is. Oh, God.
Yeah. No, I'm sure everybody reads the one we did for my uncle and aunt. And they were in that community for 40 plus years. Bet. And this is, can I just say something? Do I have time to say something that's
2.5 minutes?
Obscure?
Sure.
An obscure problem that maybe relates to nobody listening. But if you're ever trying to publish a joint obituary, don't.
Wow. What? Okay.
Well, my uncle and aunt died within 5 months of each other, and they were inseparable for 58 years. And so when we went to write their obituaries, we decided it was just so much overlap to say the same things about each one. So we wanted to publish one obituary, not to save money, but just tell their story.
Sure.
And anyway, the company said no problem. And in fact, they have this line in their branding that says publishing an obituary should be the easiest part of the grieving process. Oh my goodness. It was a nightmare.
They wouldn't let you do
only room. They said it's no problem, but there's only room for one person's name and only room for one person's date. So you've got to overlap all these things, and oh my gosh. So
never thought about that.
If I can leave one non-sustainable tip,
that's a good one.
It is, do not try to write a joint obituary.
See, we have helped people. I don't know how many people we've helped today, but that's a good one because, these people do this hundreds of times a year. There are systems in place. And like you say, well, I'd like to add 2 people's names. No, the computer does not do that. We're not going to, it just becomes a pain.
Humans don't know that the computers don't do that. So,
exactly.
One more non-sustainable tip, since this is very quickly. Well, I know we're seeing each other right before July 4th, so we can talk about this some more. This is a non-sustainable tip. I have 2 dogs. People, watch out for the fireworks. It's just devastating to the dogs. Go to some fireworks show, but don't do fireworks. Poor dogs in our neighborhood our dogs are so freaked out.
I will tell you this because of the Dukester who loved the Duke, but he has got no time for the fireworks displays. We have doggy hemp pills, marijuana pills, whatever. We only use them once a year. He gets a couple of treats, and you know what? He could care less about the fireworks during that. I'm not big on chemicals for dogs. It's just not my thing. But it makes such a difference in his 4th of July celebrating.
Yes, we've got this Thunder Ease spray. Ugh.
Use it. Use and abuse it.
I'm not sure that it does enough, but don't OD your dogs,
Just get him to a place of happiness where he's looking for snacks all day, and he'll be fine. I got to fly. We're out of time. Thank you, Stephanie Miller. We'll get you back next week. Stephanie Miller, the 80/20 Way.